Welcome, Badshah.
Hi, welcome, Chris.
Thanks for being here. So, you're a tax expert. So, just tell me about yourself and your company.
Yes, I am Badshah. I am a chartered accountant and I am a tax consultant as well. And we are providing the tax consultancy service for a lot of clients so far, and especially from the clients from European jurisdiction who are relocating their businesses into UAE.
Nice, nice. Very cool. Yeah, so let's jump onto the topics. So, what makes Dubai such a tax friendly city?
When it comes to the taxation rules of Dubai, where else in the world we can see such a lower tax rates?
Yeah.
Only 9% of corporate tax, no taxes on personal income.
Hmm.
There is no taxes at all on real estate investment income.
It's
Not
amazing, huh?
exactly. So there is even no taxes on the salaries that earned by the individuals in UAE. I don't think where else in the world a person who is a taxpayer can have all these benefits from such a business friendly nation. So Dubai is always best in terms of tax friendliness.
Yeah. How's it in India?
When it comes to India, there are five heads of taxation.
Hmm.
There is a profit when there is a profit from business or profession, or if it is from salaries,
Hmm.
or if you are selling some properties as capital gains. There are a lot of other taxes coming into picture when you are having the business or the residency in India. But in Dubai, recently we have incorporated the corporate income tax.
Yeah.
Apart from that, there is no taxes at all on the individual income unless and until there are certain categories for which the people who are doing business in UAE,
Hmm.
even though if you are an individual, but still if you are doing business in UAE, that too more than 1 million dirhams in a Gregorian calendar year, then only you are supposed to pay taxes on the business income.
Okay.
Still, that salaries are not into the taxation purview of UAE.
So, how quickly is it for a person coming here to set up like a tax residency? What does that person need?
So the tax residency rule for a person, per se, if it is an individual, is different from that of a company. So for an individual to become a tax resident in UAE, you need to stay at least for 183 days in a year
To get the certificate.
to get the certificate of tax residency purpose.
Yeah.
But most of the time people get confused
Mm.
with resident ID card with tax residency certificate.
Yeah.
When you are having a resident ID card, it is for the purpose of all the UAE resident related aspects, but not for the tax residency purpose. So we need to clearly identify the difference between having a resident ID card and having a tax residency certificate in hand. Tax residency certificate for an individual can be obtained if he or she is in UAE for at least for a period of 183 days in a year.
Yeah. So you can apply for that extra if needed in the end.
Exactly. It can be obtained from Ministry of Finance. Once you are providing the necessary details, we can obtain the tax residency certificate, which can be used in a lot of other countries
Yeah.
to avoid double taxation, paying taxes on the same income twice. This can be avoided if you are obtaining a tax residency certificate from UAE and if you are earning income from UAE.
Okay. But not many or all countries need it. For example, like Scandinavia. And we just recently had a Australian client, and the process was he's not actually going to live here for a long time,
Hmm.
but he's opening a company. So would that also then be possible?
Yes. Always we need to understand there is two type of tax residency certificates. One is for company and other is for individuals. When you are having a company incorporated in UAE, by this incorporation itself, a company is a resident.
It's a
company
good,
for the tax purpose.
it's a good way actually. Yeah. Many don't know about this.
Exactly. Most of them were thinking that, okay, having a company in UAE, but if the owner is going out of the country, still how come the income not taxable elsewhere? But as per UAE tax laws, when a person is incorporating a company in UAE, that company is considered as resident taxable person. So when a company is a resident taxable person, all the income generated by that company will be taxed in UAE
Yeah.
at the lowest tax rates in the world, which is 9%. And up to 3 million dirhams for the first 3 years, we don't have taxes at all.
0% tax.
Exactly. There is a relief known as small business relief, which can be obtained by all the startup companies who are doing business in UAE until December 2026. So these are the benefits that can be availed by a lot of taxpayers elsewhere in the world.
So can you just say that again? So if they have a company or they get this small business relief only up to 3 years,
Exactly. So small business relief is a special consideration given for the companies having less than 3 million as their turnover.
AED a
AED,
year.
yeah, as less than 3 million AED in a
Yeah.
year
Yeah.
during 2023, 2024, 2025. Sorry, you can just cut it. 3 years are okay. Small business relief is a special consideration given to all the small businesses in UAE who doesn't have a turnover of more than 3 million dirhams during 2024, 2025, and 2026.
So the years combined,
No, it is not
separate.
combined.
Huh?
It is separate. So if you don't have 3 million on 2024, you can avail the benefit. In 2025, if you still doesn't have 3 million
You still
independently, you can still
qualify.
avail.
Yeah. And what if you make a profit? What does the profit need to be? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So this is a very good benefit that every business owner should be aware of, that 3 million dirhams during the first 3 years of taxation, we can avail the benefit of small business relief.
And what needs to be done for the client? So, for example, we have a client. He opens a Dubai free zone, gets his residency, his personal and business bank account, and he's making say 3 million AED turnover. So, when the year ends, what does need to happen that he can claim that 0%?
Having 3 million AED and having a tax relief for those people doesn't have 3 million AED doesn't mean that they don't want to keep any records. Even though if you are claiming small business relief and if you are filing simplified tax returns, still you should keep your books of accounts ready. You should keep your income, you should keep your details of the expenses, you should prepare proper books of accounts in such a way as mandated by international financial reporting standards.
So, you have the bookkeeping you have to do, keep the invoices, for example, and then end of the year, it would be the audit, the financial report, correct?
As of now, the auditing is not mandatory for all the companies. If a company is having more than 50 million dirhams during a year, and if it is a mainland company having more than 50 million, yes, it is mandatory to have an audit report as signed by an auditor approved by Ministry of Economy. At the same time, when you are availing the qualifying free zone person's benefit, still you have to do the audit. So there are two type of mandatory audit requirements. At the same time, the accounting and bookkeeping is mandatory for all, despite of their revenue, despite of their transactions, whatsoever it may be. A person must keep the books of accounts ready for the tax filing purpose.
And that's it. But is there anything extra for the tax filing? That tax filing comes at the end of the year, correct?
Exactly. The tax filings comes within 9 months from the end of each tax period. So in UAE, the tax period of the companies depends upon what is their financial year, as mentioned in their memorandum of association. So we need to figure out what exactly the tax period of each company while doing the tax registration. Accordingly, with the within the due date of filing the returns, we have to do whatever the requirements are for that particular tax period.
So in the end, it's pretty easy. So can a person do it himself, or is it always recommended to have an accounting?
Ideally, a person who is having enough knowledge about their business, if the person is having enough knowledge about how to do the tax filings, can manage themselves, because there is no mandatory requirement to appoint a tax consultant. But still, since the corporate tax is of a compliance in nature, we need to mandatorily look into all the in and outs of the law, and having an expert tax consultant can be acting as a catalyst
Yeah.
to understand the tax laws, to get the maximum benefit out of
Yeah.
all the available reliefs and exemptions in the purview of law.
Yeah. And the end, if you're making this 3 million turnover, and that's like nearly your profit, and just investing into an accountant like you, paying like 2, 3, 4,000 US dollar, maybe 10, 20, 13,000 AD, it's nothing, of course. And if someone has a company in Europe where they're accounting and bookkeeping, and it's a lot more, it's like 10 times more, 20 times more, sometimes depending. So it's like, it's peanuts in the end, what they benefit on, don't they?
Of course. So the consultancy related aspect, it depends on entity to entity whom we are consulting, what kind of consulting that we are taking. But still, my point related to what exactly a person should look at, how the person should look at the tax consulting aspect, is that people should be in a position to appreciate tax saving methodologies instead of tax avoidance. So I always advise my clients, when you are coming up with new plans, come up with new plans in such a way that how to put it everything under the ambience of law, under the ambit of the tax laws prevailing in the country. Don't bring something just to avoid the taxes,
Yeah.
which will be ending up in a lot of compliance cost. And the cost of compliance is always, cost of non-compliance is always higher than the cost of getting consulted.
Yeah. For example, if you're making like say a few 100,000 US dollar in your home country and you're paying 30, 40% taxes and other fees, you lost half of that nearly. So now if you open the company here, you're doing consultancy or some online business, you have 0% tax. And the only thing we have is like you setting up your license, your bank accounts, your residency, average of say 6 to 8,000 US dollar. Then you have the bookkeeping, maybe like as I mentioned, 2 to 4,000 US dollar. And that's it. It's like say just an average, say 10,000 it will cost you for the package, and everything else is your profit.
Of course, that does make sense. Mr. Chris, we need to understand that in this part of the world where the entire global is the economy, what how a business owner can think to avail maximum benefit out of the available tax laws prevailing in respective countries. Being a shrewd business owner, we need to think about what makes it different to provide the consulting services from UAE instead of elsewhere in the world, and what benefits UAE is giving for all such businesses
Yeah.
having the businesses, or all such businesses having their incorporation in UAE. They are giving the advantage of 9% of corporate tax. Why 9%? Most of them knows corporate tax rate is 9%. But do you know why the tax is 9%?
No.
This is one interesting thing that everybody should be aware of, that UAE has taken, instead of 8%, instead of 10%, UAE has taken 9% of corporate tax. Only because of the reason this will help the taxpayers in UAE to not to consider as taxpayer in elsewhere for the same income that they have generated from UAE. Say for example, if you are having a company in Germany and if you are having a company in UAE, by understanding the double taxation avoidance agreement and whatsoever it may be, if a country is considered as a tax country, it should minimum have 9% of taxation. If UAE would have taken the tax rate 8%,
It's not enough.
Germany will never consider UAE as a tax country.
Very-
So this is a very good,
Very,
interesting
yeah.
fact. Most of the business owner are still not in a position to appreciate why 9%.
Yeah.
If it would have been 8,
Yeah.
if it would have been 7, the taxpayers might not have get the benefits that it enjoying at the moment. So this is very good fact that UAE has introduced 9%. Because of the mandatory requirement of pillar 2 adoption, it may increase to 15% on a later stage, but still 9% at the moment is beneficial for all the taxpayers across the globe who have the business incorporation in UAE.
And you still, with the 3 million AED turnover, still a 0% in the end.
Of course.
No?
Yeah, it's like a toppings on the cream
Yeah.
that even though the tax rates are only 9% over 375,000 of taxable income, if you are having 3 million dirhams as their total turnover during 2024 or 2025 or 2026 independently. But in any of the year, if you cross 3 million, then you will not get this privilege of not paying taxes. But still, even if your profits are 1 million, and if you are in a position to avail small business relief, yes, we can avail the benefit of small business relief.
And you can reduce that anyway by, of course, expenses. You have salaries to be paid out. So then you will also, if you're making more, you can reduce it at the end of the year.
Exactly.
So there's always ways. Would you also recommend it, for example, if someone is making 4 million turnover and he can't reduce it somehow, to open another business and separate it? Possible?
As I have mentioned, there can be 2-3 ways to reduce the taxation. Having a different company only for segregating the income or segregating the revenue doesn't have any economic purpose.
Okay.
So we as a tax consultant will never advise our client to take such measures which will result in tax avoidance. At the same time, having the proper books of accounts by showing the salaries on an arm's length basis, by keeping the records accurately, there are a lot of other reliefs availed by the corporate income tax law. We advise our client to have proper consultation, because if something goes wrong and if the tax authorities come to know about the new company formed doesn't have an economic substance, it may end up into non-compliance, and the cost of non-compliance is always higher than cost of compliance.
Okay. That's interesting, yeah. Yeah. So is it possible to keep the tax residency in another country, such as Germany or UK, and still becoming a residency here and just paying the taxes in the UAE?
Of course, when it comes to the business income tax, if you are having a company in UAE, the income generated by the company will be considered as income generated by a resident taxable person in UAE. So all the taxes will be applicable for the resident taxable person. At the same time, if this business owner is an individual who doesn't stay in UAE but still If the person is in back in their country, from wherever it may be, there can be residential status applicable based on their domestic tax laws.
Yeah.
So it can be possible that a person can have residential status of being a company having tax residency in UAE, and the residential status of a person having individual residency status back in their country as well. There can be possible.
Okay. Buying a property here, what taxes need to be paid? For example, if you are buying it on your personal name or buying it on a company, you're starting to create a free zone company. Is there any difference?
Interestingly, real estate investment income earned by an individual is not included within the purview of taxation in UAE. This is one of the great advantage any individual across the world who looks for the investment in the real estate can benefit, that no income earned through real estate investment will be taxed in UAE,
So,
whatsoever the amount it can
so
be.
even if you sell it and if you rent it, there's no taxes as when you are doing it personally.
Exactly.
Okay, but what if you buy the property with the company with the free zone license, for example, and you want to sell the property? Do you have to pay the 9%?
Of course, when it comes to a company, the taxation for company and the legal status of the company is different from that of an individual. So corporate tax of 9% is applicable if you are having a real estate investment and if you are selling under the name of the company, and the activity should be there for the company to do such things.
What would you recommend people rather buying on personal name or buying with the company?
When it comes to when we are looking, it depends on the perspective of each
Yeah.
and every investor.
Yeah.
So, and the requirement and the economic reasons why they are doing. When it comes to the taxation perspective, I would prefer a person to do in their individual name,
Yeah.
because whatsoever income that they are earning through an immovable property in by means of real estate investment, that income is not taxed anywhere. Even though if you are earning an income more than 1 million,
Yeah.
still it is excluded from the entire turnover of an individual. So I would prefer to buy in the individual's name
Yeah.
because it is not taxed anywhere.
But it depends if someone wants to buy on the company because of not showing the name, or they are with partners, or they are looking to make a proper business with it. Then it's mostly recommended to get a free zone license. Correct?
Of course, when it comes to the economic reasons,
Yeah.
if that's what we were talking about, if there is an economic reason to do the business with partners, having a free zone license, of course, it is good and we can go for it.
Mm.
But for only for the tax saving purpose, if you are investing, you can invest in your personal name.
Okay, so I'm a resident now, and I want to open a company here, but I'm relocating to different countries. So I'm coming here for a few weeks, then I'm going to Thailand for 2 months, to Bali 1 month, to Malaysia for 2 months, to Germany for 3 months, America for 4 months. That's possible to keep the residency, the tax residency, and the license, and still paying the taxes in the UAE.
Of course, tax residency of the company will not be changing even if the owner is traveling elsewhere in the world. So, residential status for companies in UAE or legal persons in UAE, which means companies or incorporated partnerships, whatsoever it may be, it depends on whether the company is incorporated in UAE or not. Apart from that, there is another residential status determination that if the person is having effective management and control from UAE, then also such companies, even though it is not incorporated in UAE will be considered as resident taxable person. In our case, if you incorporate a company in UAE, definitely that company is going to be a resident taxable person. And we will be paying taxes based on domestic tax laws of UAE. If at all, if there is any conflict happening back with their country in which they are resident, individual resident, and if you are earning income out of that country by having invoices back and forth, if there is any conflict, it will be resolved using double taxation avoidance agreements. But prima facie, a company having a residential status in UAE, being a resident taxable person, will be paying taxes based on domestic tax laws only.
So is there any difference if you get a free zone license or a mainland license? Is it also like say 0% or 9%, or is it completely different?
Of course. So when it comes to the taxation of mainland and free zone, predominantly it is more or less the tax rates are more or less same. But at the same time, there are a lot of other benefits which can be availed by certain free zones. Not all the free zones.
Okay.
Yes,
What
it
are the
depends on the activities what we are involved into, and free zone taxation is altogether a different area of discussion when it comes to the corporate tax.
okay? What benefits? What like the license? You mean activity? There's more benefits.
Exactly. When it comes, for example, when you are having a trading business activity,
Mm.
and if you are intended to do it in UAE, we would prefer the person to go to any designated free zone and do the trading business activity instead of going to any other free zone. Why? Because there is a benefit of qualifying free zone person exemption if the person smartly and carefully plan during their tax period.
So they can be a relief of 0%. Doesn't matter of what turnover.
Yes, this is a guaranteed exemption which can be availed by all such businesses having trading activity. It is an example out of uh, 13 or 14 activities that is mentioned. Trading business activity is one of the activity which will get the benefit if they are doing from designated free zone. When we are talking about the free zone taxation, we need to understand few more aspects in which with whom we are doing business. For example, if you are intending to do business with only other free zone companies, then there is a benefit of qualifying free zone person exemption which can be availed by any free zone company in UAE.
Mm.
So if you are intending to do business with other free zone companies only, then there are a lot of benefits available